The first time I saw them together, I thought their closeness was sweet. Family is everything to him, I told myself with pride. Little did I know that family would take on an entirely different meaning in our marriage. I still remember the exact moment my world imploded. It wasn't dramatic. No lipstick on collars or mysterious hotel receipts. Just a single text notification that flashed across my husband's phone while he was in the shower. Last night was incredible. I can't wait to taste you again, cousin. My hands trembled as I picked up Blake's phone. 4 digits, our anniversary date, unlocked a trove of secrets that had been hiding in plain sight for nearly 2 years. My husband of 8 years was sleeping with his cousin, Audrey. I'm Natalie, 34 years old. Former marketing executive who gave up a promising career to support my husband's family business. The perfect wife who hosted elaborate dinner parties for his judgmental relatives. The woman who endured 3 miscarriages while trying to give him the family he claimed to want so desperately. And there I stood, barefoot in our kitchen, reading explicit messages between my husband and the woman who had cried on my shoulder just months earlier about her failed engagement. The woman I had consoled with wine and reassurances that she would find someone worthy of her love. You deserve better than him, I had told her. The irony is still bitter on my tongue. I didn't confront Blake that day, or the next. I watched him kiss me goodbye, telling me he had a business trip to Chicago. I tracked his location to Audrey's downtown apartment, just 12 miles from our home. I listened to him lie about poor cell reception, while her laughter echoed in the background. Perhaps most shocking wasn't the affair itself. It was how his entire family seemed to orbit around this secret. The knowing glances at holiday gatherings. The inside jokes I never quite understood. The way conversations would halt when I entered rooms. Had they all known? Had I been the punchline in some twisted family joke for years? His mother, Eleanor, had always treated me with thinly veiled contempt. Blake and Audrey were inseparable as children, she'd reminisce, a strange gleam in her eye. Some bonds can never be broken. I used to think it was sweet. Now the memory makes me physically ill. Blake's father, Richard, had once drunkenly told me at a family barbecue, "Blood is thicker than water, remember that." I had nodded politely, assuming it was just another reminder that I would always be an outsider in their tightly knit clan. I had been so pathetically eager to belong, to be accepted by these people who treated family loyalty as their religion while betraying the very concept with their actions. Our last anniversary, Blake had given me a diamond bracelet, expensive and cold, just like his affection. That same night, according to their messages, he'd given Audrey a key to a secret apartment they shared. My gift had been purchased by his assistant. Hers had been selected personally after weeks of searching. "No one will ever understand what we have," he'd written to her. "Nat is convenient, but you're my soul." Convenient. 8 years of marriage, reduced to convenience. The family's annual reunion was approaching. A lavish 3-day affair at Richard and Eleanor's lake house that I had always dreaded. This year, it would fall on my birthday. Blake had already informed me that, unfortunately, we couldn't skip it, as his grandmother was celebrating her 90th birthday. "We'll do something special for your birthday another time," he'd promised, kissing my forehead absently while texting under the table. Now I knew who was on the receiving end of those messages. For weeks after my discovery, I moved through our house like a ghost. I cooked Blake's favorite meals. I wore the lingerie he had once complimented. I played the role of devoted wife while methodically gathering evidence and making plans. "You seem different," he remarked one evening, actually looking at me for once. "More, I don't know, peaceful?" I smiled. "I've just gained some clarity recently." He nodded, satisfied with my vague answer, then returned to his phone. Another message from her, no doubt. The night before the reunion, I lay awake beside him, listening to his steady breathing. How could he sleep so soundly while living such a profound lie? Did he ever feel guilt? Or had he justified it all in his mind? Was I truly nothing more than a convenient facade, a respectable wife to present to business associates while he pursued his true desires? Eleanor called that morning as we were packing for the lake house. "Natalie, dear," she said, her voice honey-sweet with underlying venom. Remember to bring those photo albums from Blake's childhood. Audrey mentioned wanting to look through them again. Of course she did. How hadn't I seen it before? The way Audrey always positioned herself in family photos, always next to Blake. The lingering hugs, the private jokes, the way she'd touch his arm when she thought no one was looking. I won't forget, Eleanor, I promised, my own voice surprisingly steady. Actually, I've prepared a special presentation for Grandma Catherine's birthday. A trip down memory lane. Oh? Her interest was piqued. Blake didn't mention anything. It's a surprise, I said, feeling the weight of the USB drive in my pocket. For everyone. As we drove to the lake house, Blake reached for my hand, a rare gesture of affection. Thanks for being so understanding about your birthday. I promise I'll make it up to you. I squeezed his hand and smiled. Don't worry. I have a feeling this is going to be a birthday no one will ever forget. The Hampton family lake house was a monument to old money and carefully preserved appearances. 5 bedrooms, a wraparound porch, and a great room with vaulted ceilings and an antique projector screen that Richard used for his infamous family slideshows. Every reunion featured a chronological display of Hampton family milestones, births, graduations, weddings, a visual reminder of their supposed dynasty. This year, the projector would serve a different purpose. We arrived late Friday afternoon. Audrey's red BMW was already parked in the circular driveway, alongside Eleanor and Richard's matching Mercedes sedans. Blake's grip on the steering wheel tightened slightly at the sight. Excitement, not dread. I watched the micro-expressions cross his face, the slight upturn of his lips, the dilation of his pupils. Looks like most everyone is here already, he said, too casually. Wonderful, I replied, matching his tone. I can't wait to see everyone. Eleanor greeted us at the door, air-kissing both my cheeks before embracing Blake for what felt like minutes. Over her shoulder, I spotted Audrey in the kitchen, pretending to help with dinner preparations while watching our arrival. Our eyes met briefly. She smiled and waved, the gold bracelet on her wrist catching the light, identical to the one Blake had claimed was one of a kind when he gave it to me for Christmas. Natalie! And there's the golden boy! Richard boomed, emerging from his study with a whiskey in hand. Grandmother's taking her afternoon nap, but she'll be down for dinner. She's been talking about seeing you all week, Blake. Blake nodded, already scanning the room for Audrey. I should help with the bags, he muttered, disappearing outside. Eleanor linked her arm through mine, her nails digging slightly into my skin. Audrey's prepared your usual room, she said, though she mentioned something about the plumbing being temperamental. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable in the guest house. The guest house, conveniently separated from the main house with its own entrance. How considerate of them to try to isolate me. Oh, our usual room will be fine, I said firmly. Blake and I always stay there. Tradition is so important, don't you think? Her smile tightened. Of course, dear. Throughout dinner that evening, I watched their choreographed dance of deception. Blake refilling Audrey's wine glass while avoiding direct eye contact. Audrey mentioning work commitments that would unfortunately require her to leave early Sunday, the same day Blake had scheduled an emergency client meeting. Eleanor directing conversation away from any topic that might expose inconsistencies in their stories. Remember when Blake and Audrey got lost in the woods during the '98 reunion? Uncle Howard bellowed, already 3 scotches deep. Found 'em in that old boathouse after dark. Blake coughed uncomfortably. We were kids, Howard. Not that young, Eleanor said with a strange pride, patting Audrey's hand. Always thick as thieves, these two. I smiled tightly. Blake never told me that story. Oh, there are so many stories, Audrey said, her voice syrupy. Maybe we should dig out the old home videos tomorrow, Aunt Eleanor, show Natalie some Hampton family history. Excellent idea for Catherine's birthday celebration, Richard agreed. Blake, help me set up the projector tomorrow morning. Actually, I interjected, I've already prepared something special, a multimedia presentation, for Catherine. The table fell silent. Blake looked at me with confusion. You didn't mention anything, he said. It's a surprise, I replied, maintaining eye contact with Audrey. I've been working on it for weeks. Later that night, Blake received a text that made him pause while brushing his teeth. "Work emergency," he mumbled. "Need to make a call. Won't be long." I watched from our bedroom window as he slipped out the back door and crossed the lawn to the boathouse, the same one from Uncle Howard's story. 5 minutes later, Audrey followed the same path, wearing a silk robe I recognized from our last family Christmas. Blake had complimented it specifically, I recalled. Now I understood why. I gave them 30 minutes together before I texted Blake. "Where are you? I need help with the shower." He returned flushed and apologetic. "Signal's better by the lake," he explained, not meeting my eyes. "What's wrong with the shower?" "Nothing now," I said. "Figured it out myself, like I always do." The next morning, while the family prepared for Catherine's birthday lunch, I volunteered to pick up the cake from the bakery in town. Instead, I drove to the local tech store where I'd arranged for some special equipment to be held for me. When I returned, Blake and Audrey were sitting on opposite sides of the living room, performatively distant, while secretly messaging each other. I caught Audrey biting her lip to suppress a smile as she read something on her phone. Blake's fingers were flying across his screen, his wedding ring glinting in the sunlight streaming through the windows. "The cake looks beautiful," Eleanor commented as I placed it carefully in the refrigerator, though I specifically requested buttercream frosting, not whipped. "The baker said buttercream doesn't hold up well in this heat," I lied smoothly. "I made an executive decision." She pursed her lips. "Well, I suppose you tried." That afternoon, as family members gathered on the porch awaiting Catherine's arrival from her bridge game with neighborhood friends, Blake cornered me near the staircase. "What exactly is this presentation you've prepared?" he asked, suspicion finally creeping into his voice. I straightened his tie, a wifely gesture that now felt like a farce. "Just some memories I've collected. Photos, videos, things I thought Catherine would appreciate." "You should have told me," he said, his tone clipped. "I could have helped." "Oh, but you've helped plenty," I assured him. "In fact, none of this would be possible without your contribution." His phone buzzed in his pocket. Audrey, no doubt, seeking reassurance or a quickie in the boathouse before the main event. "I gave everything to this family," I whispered, close enough that only he could hear. "My career, my dreams of living in the city, 3 pregnancies that ended with me crying in hospital rooms while you were working late. Years of enduring your mother's subtle jabs. And what did I get in return? A husband who thinks I'm convenient. A family that laughs behind my back." His face paled. "Nat, I don't know what you're—" "Save it," I cut him off, stepping back as Catherine's car pulled into the driveway. "The time for talking has long passed. It's time for show and tell, darling." What Blake never understood about me was that before I became his wife, before I became a Hampton, I was the daughter of a judge and a detective. While my father presided over family court cases, my mother investigated domestic disputes. Dinner conversations in my childhood home revolved around evidence collection and the psychology of betrayal. "Always be 10 steps ahead," my mother would say, "and document everything." I had been preparing for this moment since the day I discovered their affair, methodically building my case with the precision my parents had inadvertently taught me. It wasn't just about gathering evidence. It was about creating the perfect setting for its reveal. 3 months earlier, I had accidentally spilled coffee on Blake's laptop, insisting on taking it to my IT friend for repair. Instead, I had a tech expert extract all his deleted messages, photos, and location data. The same expert installed nearly undetectable monitoring software that forwarded every new communication to a secure server. 2 months ago, I had suggested Blake upgrade his cloud storage, helpfully setting it up for him using my email as the recovery option. Every photo, even those he thought were deleted, backed up automatically to an account I controlled. 6 weeks ago, I befriended Audrey's roommate under the pretense of planning a surprise party. Over wine and forced confidences, I mentioned my concerns about Audrey's recent depression following her broken engagement. The roommate, eager to help, gave me access to their apartment to leave encouraging notes while Audrey was at work, actually with my husband. The notes I left weren't the only things I planted. Small cameras, the kind used for home security, provided additional evidence of their trysts in her apartment. The family lake house presented a different challenge. I needed access to the property's systems before our arrival. Thankfully, Richard's pride in his smart home upgrades provided the perfect opportunity. Eleanor keeps changing the thermostat settings. He had complained during our last visit. I need to update the system so I can control it remotely. Blake's company recently installed a similar system for a client. I offered. I'm sure he could help. Richard had eagerly accepted, giving Blake, and by extension me, administrative access to the house's network. While Blake handled the thermostat, I quietly connected to the security cameras, digital photo frames, and yes, the projector system in the great room. For weeks, I tested my access remotely, ensuring everything worked flawlessly. I created backup plans for my backup plans. If the Wi-Fi failed, I had hardwired options. If the projector malfunctioned, I had tablets preloaded with the evidence. If someone tried to stop the presentation, the files would automatically send to every family member's email. The night before the reunion, I had sat alone in our home office, finalizing my presentation, text messages, photos, videos with timestamps, location data showing their parallel movements, hotel receipts, a timeline of their affair juxtaposed with major family events, including my hospital stays during miscarriages. But the masterstroke came from an unexpected source, Audrey's own journal, discovered during my encouragement note visit to her apartment. She had meticulously documented their relationship, including Eleanor's knowledge and approval. E says it's time to make my move, one entry read. B's marriage is just for show anyway. E never wanted him with an outsider. Says family should stay together. Another. B promised he'll leave her after the fiscal year. Says she's been a good placeholder, but it's always been me. Always us. As it should be. And most damning. Had dinner with E and R tonight. They're willing to bring me into the business after N is gone. E suggested making her think she's infertile. The stress of the treatments will give B the perfect excuse to leave. We laughed about how clueless she is. My 3 miscarriages suddenly took on a new, horrifying context. Had there been something in those special fertility teas Eleanor had insisted on preparing for me? The thought made me physically ill. On the morning of Catherine's birthday, while retrieving my special equipment from town, I also visited a lawyer who had already prepared divorce papers and emergency financial orders to freeze our joint assets. Everything was ready to file electronically with a single text message from me. I had also met with a reporter from the Wall Street Journal, where, coincidentally, I had interned during college before giving up my journalism aspirations for Blake. The reporter had found my evidence of the Hampton family's tax evasion schemes, discovered accidentally during my digital excavation. Particularly interesting. If you decide to run the story, I had told her, wait for my signal. I want to be the one to break the news to them first. As Catherine's birthday lunch approached, I excused myself to set up the presentation. In reality, I was double-checking my connections and sending a final message to my lawyer. Be ready, it happens today. I watched through the kitchen window as Blake and Audrey found another moment alone on the dock. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, a gesture he had once reserved for me. She leaned into his touch, secure in their shared delusion that they were the clever ones, that I was the fool. What beautiful symmetry that their destruction would come at the hands of the woman they had underestimated, in front of the family that had facilitated their betrayal. As guests began filtering into the great room, I felt a strange calm. Eleanor approached, eyeing the projector setup with suspicion. What exactly have you planned, Natalie? She asked, her voice tight with barely concealed anxiety. I smiled, channeling the same saccharine tone she had always used with me. Just a tribute to family, Eleanor. After all, isn't that what the Hamptons value most? Family loyalty? Her eyes narrowed slightly. For the first time, I saw a flicker of fear in them. Blake seems nervous about your surprise, she probed. He should be, I replied simply. I took my place near the computer as Catherine entered the room to enthusiastic applause. Blake stood near the back, one eye on his phone, probably warning Audrey to stay away. Too late. She was already settling into a chair in the front row, eager to appear supportive of her pathetic cousin-in-law's little project. Before we begin, I announced to the gathering, I want to thank all of you for welcoming me into the Hampton family. Today I'd like to share some precious memories we've created together. I clicked play and watched their world begin to crumble. The first slide appeared innocent enough, a photo of Blake and me on our wedding day, his arm around my waist, both of us beaming at the camera. The assembled family members sighed appreciatively. "What a beautiful couple," Catherine commented from her seat of honor. I smiled tightly. Yes, appearances can be so convincing. The next slide showed another wedding day photo, this one capturing Audrey in the background, her expression unmistakably jealous as she watched Blake. Several family members shifted uncomfortably. "I never noticed that before," someone murmured. "There's so much I never noticed," I agreed, clicking to the next slide. A text message exchange appeared on the screen, enlarged for all to see. "Blake, I can still taste you. How am I supposed to sit across from you at dinner tonight and pretend?" Audrey, "Same way we always do. She suspects nothing. Too busy planning that charity gala." Blake, "Can't wait until it's just us. No more pretending." Audrey, "Soon. Your mother has a plan." Gasps echoed around the room. Blake lunged toward the computer, but I had anticipated this. The presentation was already mirrored to 3 separate devices, continuing seamlessly as he fumbled with the laptop. "What is this?" Eleanor demanded, her voice shrill. "Evidence," I replied calmly. "Oh, don't bother, Blake. If you stop it here, it automatically sends to everyone's email. Please take your seat. We're just getting started." The slides continued. Location data showing Blake and Audrey at a hotel during my second miscarriage. Photos of them together in the boathouse, dated just last night. A video captured by one of my hidden cameras, showing them laughing about how clueless I was. "This is doctored!" Audrey shrieked, her face ashen. "She's making this up." "Am I?" I clicked to the next slide, a scan of her journal entry describing how she and Blake had celebrated after my 3rd miscarriage. The room fell deadly silent. "My God!" Catherine whispered, her birthday celebration forgotten. Richard stood up, pointing a trembling finger at me. "Turn that off immediately! This is a private family matter!" "Oh, but I'm family, remember?" I replied, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "Or am I only family when it's convenient? When you need someone to host your parties? When you need a respectable wife for your son while he fucks his cousin?" The crude language hit like a physical blow in the genteel setting. Eleanor gasped, clutching her pearls literally. A gesture so cliché I almost laughed. "Grandma Catherine," I continued, turning to the elderly woman whose expression had transformed from shock to something harder. "Did you know your daughter-in-law approved of this arrangement? That she actively encouraged it?" The next slide showed Eleanor's text messages to Audrey. "Be patient. The Hampton men always come back to Hampton women. His marriage is just for public image." Catherine turned to her daughter-in-law, eyes blazing. "Eleanor? She's manipulating everything," Eleanor insisted, her carefully maintained composure cracking. "These are out of context." "Like this?" I clicked again. A video began playing. Eleanor in Audrey's apartment, captured by one of my hidden cameras. "The fertility treatments are the perfect cover," on-screen Eleanor was saying. "She'll be so focused on trying to conceive, she won't notice what's happening right under her nose. And when Blake finally leaves her, everyone will just assume the marriage couldn't survive the stress of infertility." Catherine rose from her chair with surprising strength for her 90 years. "You poisoned that girl's tea," she said, her voice quivering with rage. "I watched you add something to it every time. You told me it was herbal supplements." The room erupted into chaos. Uncles shouted at each other. Cousins rushed to take sides. Richard attempted to unplug the projector while Blake stood frozen, his carefully constructed world disintegrating around him. I raised my hand, and remarkably, the room quieted. "There's more," I said softly. While gathering evidence of my husband's infidelity, I discovered something else entirely. The presentation shifted to financial documents, offshore accounts, falsified tax returns, evidence of the Hampton family business's systematic fraud spanning decades. "Copies of these have already been sent to the SEC and the IRS," I informed them as Richard collapsed into a chair. "But I thought you deserved to see them first. Family courtesy." "You vindictive bitch," Blake finally found his voice. "You've destroyed everything." "No, Blake. You did that when you chose your cousin over your wife." when you and your mother conspired against me, when you celebrated while I grieved our children. I turned to the assembled family. There are two kinds of people in this room right now. Those who knew about the affair and kept it from me, and those who were as deceived as I was. For the latter, you have my sympathy. For the former, I shrugged. Consider this my divorce announcement. Audrey lunged at me, her perfectly manicured nails aimed at my face. I sidestepped easily, sending her crashing into the refreshment table. The birthday cake, carefully selected as Blake's favorite, not Catherine's, toppled onto her white designer dress. Your prenup has an infidelity clause, I reminded Blake, as security guards I had hired entered the room. And yes, cousin fucking counts. My lawyer has already filed. You get nothing. You can't prove any of this will stand up in court, Eleanor hissed. I smiled. That's where you're wrong. Blake signed a technology consent form for our home system, granting me legal access to all shared devices. Audrey invited me into her apartment. No illegal entry. And your family's financial crimes? Those documents came from the company server Blake gave me access to for the charity work I do for your family business. I turned to the guards. These people are not to enter my home. The locks have been changed, but they may become desperate. As I moved toward the door, Catherine called out, Natalie, wait. I paused. The elderly woman approached me, her steps slow but determined. She pressed something into my hand, a heavy antique key. The family vault, she explained. Richard thinks I don't know about the second set of books kept there. Take them. Do what you must. She kissed my cheek. Happy birthday, my dear. I hope your new life brings you peace. 12 months have passed since what the society columns delicately termed an unfortunate disruption at the Hampton family gathering. What those columns didn't report was the federal investigation that followed, or how quickly Blake's family members turned against each other when faced with potential prison sentences. Richard took a plea deal, providing evidence against his partners. Eleanor escaped criminal charges but not social ruin. The Hampton name, once synonymous with old money respectability, now carries the stench of scandal and incest. Blake and Audrey fled to a non-extradition country, their joint Instagram showing forced smiles on foreign beaches, pretending they chose this exile rather than having it thrust upon them. I declined to press criminal charges for the fertility tampering. The public humiliation seemed punishment enough, and proving it would have been difficult. But Catherine knew. In the months before her death, she passed peacefully in her sleep 3 months after her memorable 90th birthday. She transferred significant assets to me. For the great-grandchildren I'll never meet, her letter explained. The divorce was finalized in record time. Blake didn't contest it, couldn't, with the evidence I possessed. Instead of the nothing he had planned to leave me with, I received the family's lake house, which I promptly sold, control of a considerable investment portfolio, and a settlement that ensured I would never need to work again. But I chose to work anyway. The Wall Street Journal article about the Hampton family's financial improprieties mentioned my background in marketing and journalism. Within weeks, I received offers from 3 major publications. I accepted a position as an investigative reporter specializing in white-collar crime and domestic abuse, topics I now understood from painful personal experience. My first feature exposed how wealthy families use strategic marriages to protect family assets and the psychological warfare sometimes waged against outsider spouses. It won a prestigious journalism award and led to legislative proposals strengthening protections for spouses during divorce. I bought a light-filled apartment in the city, the urban lifestyle Blake had denied me, and adopted a rescue dog I named Justice. The bitter irony that I achieved my dream career and ideal home only after enduring such betrayal isn't lost on me. Sometimes I wonder if Blake ever truly loved me, or if I was always just a convenient cover for his true desires. I'll never know. Some questions have no satisfying answers. Last week I received a postcard. No return address, but the handwriting unmistakably Catherine's, sent before her death but delayed. The truth has made you free, she wrote. Now build something beautiful with that freedom. I've started dating again, cautiously. My therapist says my trust issues are understandable but not insurmountable. The man I'm seeing knows my story. Everyone does, thanks to social media. but he doesn't treat me like damaged goods or a woman with an interesting backstory. He treats me like Natalie. Yesterday, I ran into Eleanor at a charity gala. Her first appearance in society since the scandal. She's aged a decade in a single year. Her once immaculate appearance now slightly disheveled. Her social confidence shattered. "You've ruined us," she hissed when she spotted me across the champagne fountain. I smiled pleasantly. "No, Eleanor. You did that when you decided your son's happiness mattered less than your family's twisted definition of loyalty. We could have given you a generous settlement," she insisted, "if you'd just walked away quietly. It was never about money." I sipped my champagne. "It was about justice. Was it worth it?" she demanded. "Destroying an entire family?" I considered the question carefully, aware that several society photographers were watching our exchange with undisguised interest. "Your family was already destroyed, Eleanor, rotting from the inside out with secrets and lies. I just turned on the lights so everyone could see the decay." She flinched as though I'd struck her. "For what it's worth," I added, "I did love him, and I would have been a good mother to his children, your grandchildren, if you'd given us the chance." As I walked away, I felt a weight lift that I hadn't realized I still carried. Not forgiveness, I'm not that evolved yet, but a final release. The last lingering tendrils of what-ifs and if-onlys dissolved into the evening air. There's a special kind of power in surviving what was meant to destroy you, in flourishing where others planned for you to wither. The Hamptons taught me that blood may be thicker than water, but truth is thicker than both. Sometimes I dream about the children I lost, 3 tiny souls that never got their chance. I wonder if they were somehow spared a worse fate, born into a family built on such twisted foundations. Other times I dream of the woman I was before, trusting, eager to please, desperate for approval. I mourn her, but I don't miss her. The woman I am now stands firmly in her power, eyes wide open, and she regrets nothing.
I hope you enjoyed this thrilling journey. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this story? Let me know in the comments below. Your feedback inspires more epic tales.